Let's draw a cube in 2-point perspective. Gonna get this guy, little cube, and gonna pick a 2-point perspective grid. Let's go with this one. So we've got our horizon line up high, which means we're kind of looking down on objects. We've got our main vanishing point that's on the page over here. VP2, vanishing point 2, is off to the left. And, probably if you kind of trace it out, it's probably around there somewhere, right off the page. So yeah, let's draw a cube here. So in this case, all of the vertical lines are still going to be completely vertical. They're not going to converge, but any line that's kind of sort of parallel to this vanishing point going here is going to be follow these lines. It's going to converge to the left, and any line kind of going into the page to this vanishing point is going to converge. So maybe if we kind of draw a cube, something like this. Something like that. But we'll draw it a lot more accurately. So just drawing that kind of first line, which helps us define sort of the height of the cube. And let's draw this face of the cube. And these grids can be a bit tricky if we're because Photoshop sometimes kind of creates weird patterns out of like a moire pattern. But just see what you can do. Be as accurate as you can. Just trying to be accurate. I'm gonna go like kind of there. And looks like that's not a cube, so let's make it a bit more cubey. Again, you can measure all these things, but for the moment we're just gonna guesstimate. And this guy goes off here. Let's draw a line down here. Again, we're gonna take one off the page here, and hopefully that'll kind of line up there. So those are the basics. Let's reduce the opacity of that and see if we can draw a clean one on top. Just using the line tool, keeping it simple. Along here. So trying to match the lines that I've kind of drawn, but also paying attention to the grid, which is going to be more accurate than the lines that I've drawn. So there's a cube. Fairly simple. Let's have a go at doing that without the lines, without the line tool. So instead of doing this, I'm going to have a go at doing it freehand, and we'll see how that goes. And obviously you could sort of, like use some line tools. Probably what I'd do is I'd sort of draw a really strong sort of line there, because the grid can be hard to see, and it's not 100% sort of grid either. It kind of hops around a bit. But let's have a go. Just going to draw sort of straight down. Again, going to follow. And I've got a point here, and I've got a point here. So I can try and do that on the Wacom, or I can kind of spin it around, and this is going to mean that it might be a little bit easier to kind of get. So again, not trying to make it sort of clean and straight, although that is the ideal, but try and be as accurate as possible. Press escape to get out of that rotated view. Now let's try and trace a line kind of back here following this. And let's do one over here. Oh, it's getting a bit wobbly. Let's have another one here. And draw a straight line down there. So we've got a point here, point here, point here, and we're going to be tracing to a point kind of over there somewhere. So again, you can rotate at each point if this is going to be a better line. This one is hard to gauge because this point is a bit ambiguous. Often those are the hardest to get, and it can actually be better sometimes to instead of drawing that in now, using this guide, because again, you might think that the guide is kind of always important, but it's because like we've kind of got a line like this and a line like this, and where they intersect is somewhat ambiguous. So what might be easier is to kind of draw this guy first, and then draw along here. And now if we take a line up here, then I've got a point here, and now I've got 2 points. I'm not trying to kind of imagine something here. Because you can see one of the issues with perspective is that you can see with these grids here is that a slight change up or down really changes the depth. So even though it's a small kind of change here, a dot here versus a dot here, it's really changing the space. So these kind of measurements are quite important. Now that's kind of doing it that way. There's other ways we could do it, because I'm kind of being quite careful. Another way we could do it is to kind of use some freehand, but I could lock some of the spaces. The other thing you can do is maybe draw some of them as lines, or we can try and be I'll do it a bit looser and try and sort of, instead of being really accurate, we'll try and kind of just draw through. Feel free. I'm not worried about sort of perspective sketchiness at this point, because we're just dealing with sort of sketchiness. So make sure we've got all those different points. Again, for drawing finished results, your best bet is to kind of try and meet all these points immediately, but just making sure we go past kind of really emphasizes this kind of this concept of it being a dot here, which is really important. And this is kind of almost sort of drawing through. Again, for some lines this can be useful, for some not, and I think if you're starting out trying to get a feel for it, it's really important to make sure that these intersections are kind of accurate and we don't get too kind of fussy around there. So let's have another go at doing this. Again, I'll do it freehand. can rotate that one. I think that might be a bit more accurate, paying attention to the grid rather than the line. Okay, let's kind of look at this point back here. Rotate around a bit. You can zoom up a bit, might help. Try get. So again, Photoshop is not the best at kind of freehand drawing straight lines. It's one of the hardest tools to use. But it's a worthwhile skill to kind of have, to be able to kind of at least draw, at least kind of get close. Okay, so again, kind of wobbly lines, that's fine. The important thing is having it be kind of solid and accurate. And as with most line work, once you kind of zoom out, we kind of cease to see these sort of imperfections. And if you're if you're sort of going past this, which is still a construction phase, it's drawing a box, then there'll be other ways to kind of clean up the line or, create a finished result over the top. You can use selection tools or any of Photoshop's tools to get a cleaner result, but that's a way to draw a cube in 2-point perspective in a few different ways.